Morning.
Morning, Your Honor.
We're once again on the record in the case of People v. Simpson. The defendant is present with counsel. The people are represented. First of all, before announcing the ruling with regard to the 1538.5 motion, I'd just like to say that both attorneys, both sides in this case, did an excellent presentation for which the court is grateful. And you both gave me quite a bit to think about during the last several hours. The key issue for the court's determination is whether the warrantless entry into the property on Rockingham and the recovery of certain items of physical evidence was justified in light of exigent circumstances. And this is really a gray area of the law. I mean, there's no set formula to establish when an exigent circumstance does exist and when it doesn't. And it's really something that has to be decided on a case-by-case basis based upon the evidence that's actually presented in the hearing. There were numerous cases cited by the prosecution as well as by the defense. The court has reviewed all of those cases. The court also found an additional case that I did not see cited by either the prosecution or the defense, which, although not identical to the circumstances in this case, is more similar than most of the other cases. And that case is People v. Cain, C-A-I-N, at 216 Calap 3rd, 366, a case decided in December of 1989. In that particular matter, the situation was that there was a woman who had been beaten and raped in a certain apartment. The officers went to that location, observed her. Through the common wall, they could hear music coming from the next apartment over and could see that lights were on, and it was early in the morning. The officers knocked on the door, received no answer, and made a determination in their own minds that they felt that there could indeed be an additional victim in the adjacent apartment. The door was unlocked and they entered that apartment. They later found the defendant passed out on the floor intoxicated and recovered physical evidence including bloodstains and clothing that eventually tied that particular defendant to the crime for which he was later convicted. And the court upheld the warrantless entry into that apartment. And the language in that case, the court finds particularly helpful in this particular matter. The court indicates that due weight must be given not to the unparticularized suspicions or hunches of the police officers involved, but to the reasonable inference which he or she is entitled to draw from the facts in light of his or her experience. Additionally, that court places a limitation, which other courts indeed have recognized, is that the search involved must be strictly circumscribed by the exigencies which justify its initiation. Let's consider the evidence in this case. And basically, the evidence that was presented in this matter is for the most part uncontroverted with regard to the search. We know from the evidence that was presented that the detectives in this matter, Van Adder, Furman, Lange, and Phillips, I believe, started out at the crime scene on Bundy. They made the observations of the two dead bodies, the blood, the gloves, the footprints, and the droplets of blood leaving away from that location. There's no dispute as to what they saw there at Bundy. There's also no dispute that there were two small children who apparently were asleep inside that particular location at the time of the incident itself, and that those small children were taken to the police station. Notwithstanding suggestions to the contrary during cross-examination, the place for two small children whose mother has been murdered is not at the police station, sitting in a corner drawing pictures on a tablet. The place for those kids is with their family. The detectives testified that they were concerned about those children and wanted to make arrangements with regard to those children. The person who is the next of kin to those children is the defendant. He's their father. He's the person that logically would be the one that would be called upon to take action to take custody of those children. So I don't find anything improper in terms of the police conduct with the idea that they are going to go to the Simpson home. One might say, well, why didn't they just call? Well, apparently they didn't have the phone number to the Simpson home. We learned that through the testimony that they had to get West Tech security to come actually out to the location to try to get that phone number. So they go to the Simpson home, which apparently is only some 2 miles away and a short car ride. They get to the gate, and here again it seems to me that they really do extraordinary things to try to make contact with the persons inside. I mean, the testimony was that they rang that bell for some 15 minutes to try to rouse somebody from within the house. They could hear that phone ringing from out at the gate. There's no response. But what do they see? And this apparently also is uncontroverted in light of the testimony that was presented. There's a light on upstairs. There's a light on downstairs. There's several vehicles in the driveway. A suggestion that there are persons inside. But then there's more. And of course, this is the crucial piece of evidence, but it by itself, without all of the other surrounding circumstances, would not be enough. But what the officers say is, while they're shuffling around for this 15 minutes trying to get in touch with someone inside the house, is that they see blood, what they believe to be blood, on the door handle or near the door handle of this white Bronco. A white Bronco that is parked on a public street where the officers have a right to be, and the court sees no problem with the observing or recovery of the blood sample from the door of the Bronco. So, seeing what they believe to be blood and having seen droplets of blood leading away from the location, the officers even now are doing more to get in touch with the people inside. They're calling the West Tech security, who apparently dispatches at least one, if not two, vehicles to the location, and eventually give the police the telephone number. What they get at that point is an answering machine. They feel, and the testimony of both officers was that they felt that there was an emergency situation. The officers are cross-examined at length, both by Mr. Ullman, the initial officer, and by Mr. Shapiro, Detective Van Adder. And both lawyers, defense lawyers in this case, did an excellent job on cross-examination. But when one looks at the results of that cross-examination, basically there were really no holes put in either of those detectives' testimonies that they felt that they were acting in an emergency situation at the time. Again, I go back to that language in Kane. The search must be strictly circumscribed by the exigencies which justify its initiation. This would be a very easy decision for me if, in fact, these officers went in there like stormtroopers, fanning out over the property, examining every leaf, every car, every closet, every nook and cranny of this location. But the testimony, as elicited by the officers and is supported by the witnesses that testified on behalf of the defense, show that this was not what happened. What the testimony was is that the officers went in search of persons on the property. They went to the guest quarters of Mr. Kalin, woke him up. Now someone might say, well, what are they doing looking at those tennis shoes? Well, they didn't know what the situation was. They knew there were bloody footprints that led away from that location, and there was blood on this vehicle that somehow is tied in, or could be tied into that. So they pick up the tennis shoes. There's no blood on those shoes. But they don't start searching under beds, searching drawers. They don't handcuff Mr. Kalin. They don't do anything like that. Instead, what they do is they ask him if there's other persons on the property. And where do they go? He directs them to Arnell Simpson's quarters, apparently further down that pathway. Now, Arnell Simpson testified. The officers didn't ask her whether there was anyone hurt or injured or a suicide or something like that going on. But what did Arnell Simpson tell us? She told us that while she was walking into that house, taking a path to the front door and opening it with a key, the officers asked her about the live-in maid. Again, we have to judge the officer's conduct and the exigency, if there was one, not based upon what all of us know today, but based upon what the officers knew at the time. And the information that they had been provided by West Tech Security was that there was a live-in maid at the location. Additionally, West Tech Security advised them that they had not been informed that there was going to be a vacation or an absence of the residents from that location. We know now, obviously, that there was no dying person or injured person on the property of the Simpson estate at that time. We know that all of the persons who were supposed to be there were accounted for. Mr. Simpson was in Chicago. Mr. Kalin was in his quarters. Ms. Arnell Simpson had been out and returned about 1 o'clock in the morning. And Gigi, the maid, was on her night off. But the officers didn't know that at the time. So their immediate question, where's the maid? And a quick sort of cursory look around the area of the maid's room once they get into the house, again, seems to be was conduct that was strictly circumscribed by the exigencies which justified its initiation, the language from that case. Now, what happened once the officers got into the house? What happened was they got on the telephone. They did exactly what they said they were there to do, which is to make arrangements for those children. Kathy Rando was called. Mr. Simpson was located and contacted in Chicago. Apparently Mr. Collings was contacted. Nicole Brown's parents were contacted. This is exactly what they said they were there to do, and that's what they did. There's some suggestion, although I'm not sure that it's clear from the record, that at some point in time, Arnell Simpson apparently left the location in order to get the children, presumably leaving the police there at the scene, although it's really, that part of it is not clear to me. There's no indication at any point in time that the officers were told that they should leave. They were not welcome there. Miss Arnell Simpson was apparently so upset, and justifiably so, by the circumstances of which she was informed, that she couldn't even talk on the phone and explain to those persons that she was calling what had happened. And the only other thing really that went on while the officers were there at that time, at that portion of the testimony, was that they talked to Mr. Kalin. Did anything unusual happen around here last night? And we know from Mr. Kalin's testimony that there was a loud, jarring, banging on the wall of his guest quarters. One that scared him, that he didn't know the origin of, that he had mentioned to several other persons, but had never really investigated himself. So the officers have that information from Mr. Kalin. And Detective Furman walks down that path. He doesn't go anywhere else on the property. Officers make no attempt to go upstairs. They don't start opening cupboards, lifting up carpets, opening vehicles. He goes down that path to the area approximately adjacent to the air conditioner where that noise was seen and the picture jarred from the wall, and finds a glove. A glove that appears to be the apparent mate to the glove found at the crime scene. And at that point, he describes that he walked down toward the end of the path to see where it would lead, looking to see whether he would find a body there, and that's sort of what he expected to find according to his testimony. He then takes the other detectives one at a time to that location and shows them the glove as well. Contrary to the suggestions in the defense argument that this ruling allowing the officers' conduct or finding that it was reasonable and that there were exigent circumstances would mean the end of the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution and anarchy, I disagree. And I think one only needs to look as far as the fact that within a short time after that glove was discovered, that the officers did in fact obtain a search warrant. And apparently many other items of evidence were recovered, none of which are going to be offered during the course of this particular proceeding. So in my mind, the Fourth Amendment is alive and well. It is recognized, it's nothing new, nothing novel that I'm coming up with here, that there are exigent circumstances that on occasion justify a warrantless entry and a limited search. And this, it appears to the court, is what occurred in this particular case, based upon, as I indicated, not only the testimony of the officers as to what their state of mind was, but the specific actions that they took, which show, in fact, that that indeed was their state of mind. And they are entitled to, and the court is entitled to give weight to, the experience of those officers in drawing their conclusions. And what we learned about those officers is that I think one had 19 or so years of experience, and Van Adder over 25 years of experience in an elite homicide unit. And all of that can be taken into account. The court finds that they were in fact acting for a benevolent purpose in light of the brutal attack, and that a delay, and that they reasonably believe that a further delay could have resulted in the unnecessary loss of life. And therefore, the court denies the defense motion to suppress and will allow the introduction into evidence of the glove that was recovered and of the spattered blood spots that were located on the driveway once the sun came up, as well as the blood stain from the Bronco, which was in plain view on the public street. Ms. Clark, do you have an additional witness to call at this time?
Yes, I do. If I may inquire of the defense when they wanted to have Mr. Kalin retake the stand to complete cross-examination.
All right, so you're not asking that he be recalled at this time? All right.
There will be no further cross-examination?
That was the indication.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Detective Tom Lange.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
Tom Lange, L-A-N-G-E, also known as Frederick Lange.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Lange, would you please tell us what you do for a living, sir?
I'm a police detective for the City of Los Angeles, assigned to Robbery Homicide Division, Homicide Special Section.
How long have you been a police officer, sir?
27 years in October.
And how long have you been assigned to homicide division, homicide special?
I've been assigned to that unit since November of 1978.
How many homicides have you investigated over the entire course of your career?
I can give you an approximation. Homicides that I've been directly assigned or investigations that I've been a part of, probably between 250 and 300.
Now, in robbery, homicide, homicide special, how many cases have you handled overall? Just an estimate.
Well, again, it'd be open to interpretation. There have been serial killings, there have been mass killings, if these are individual, or, I don't know. It'd have to be over 200.
Sir, were you assigned as one of the investigating officers in the case now pending before this court?
Yes.
And how did that come about?
I was awakened approximately 3 a.m. on Monday, June 13th at home.
And what did you do when you got that call?
I had received information that there was a double homicide at 875 South Bundy in the West Los Angeles area, and so I responded to that location, arriving approximately 4:30 a.m.
Is that Brentwood of Los Angeles County, sir?
Yes.
Now, by the time you arrived, were other officers already present?
Yes.
And was the scene secured in some manner?
Yes, the scene was secured by police yellow marker tape, as well as by uniformed patrol officers.
If you would, sir, could you please describe the building, well, strike that. Did you see the apparent victims in this case when you arrived at the scene?
Yes.
Did someone lead you through a path that would avoid disturbing evidence to do so?
Yes.
And what was that path?
The path was a walkway running along the north side of the residence, perpendicular to the sidewalk in front.
And what were you able to see from that vantage point, sir?
On the walkway, I observed one victim, Nicole Brown Simpson, lying on the walkway at the foot of 3 steps leading up to the front entrance.
Were you able to see any other victims, sir?
Yes, just to the north and a little west of the first victim, I observed the second victim, Mr. Goldman, lying beneath a large tree in an area just off the walkway.
Well, I have here a series of small photographs. I'm joining the council. In respect to the first of these photographs, I'm going to ask that it be substituted in lieu of the larger photograph that's been marked on a poster board.
Can you recall which number that
I'm going to inform the court. People's 5, Your Honor. If I may withdraw People's 5 and substitute in lieu of that the smaller photograph and mark it as People's 5.
Mr. Shapiro, any objection?
No, Your
Honor.
I believe counsel agrees this is the smaller version of the same one that we previously showed. Showing you People's 5, sir, can you tell me if you recognize what I'm showing you?
Yes, that's the victim, Nicole Brown Simpson, lying in the position that I observed her on the morning of the 13th.
That is the position that you observed?
Yes.
And you, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't hear it. Did you tell us that you observed any other victims?
Yes, I observed a second victim, subsequently identified as Mr. Goldman, to the north and just west in a dirt area just off of the walkway beneath a large tree.
Now, did you have what we call a walkthrough at that scene?
Yes. I was given a walkthrough by West Los Angeles homicide detectives.
And where did you walk?
Initially, we walked up to the bodies, to the location, and observed them at close range. Some various things were pointed out to me initially by Detective Phillips. We then proceeded up the steps towards the front entrance of the home and eventually entered the home. Again, several things were pointed out to me by Detective Phillips that he had observed.
And when he pointed out them to you, when he pointed them out to you, did you observe them, sir?
Yes.
Can you tell us what those items were?
Initially, near Mr. Goldman, there was a white envelope containing what appeared to be prescription glasses. It was lying just off the walkway in the dirt between the first and second victims. There appeared to be a dark blue knit cap that was found in the dirt at the feet of Mr. Goldman, the second victim. There was a dark brown leather glove, a left-handed glove that was also near the feet of Mr. Goldman, near the knit cap. I observed a ring with, I believe it was 5 keys, just below the buttocks of Mr. Goldman. I observed a great deal of blood both on and around the area surrounding Mr. Goldman and Ms. Simpson. There were what appeared to be paw prints or animal prints that had walked through the blood that was draining downwards down the sidewalks in an easterly direction towards the sidewalk from Nicole Simpson. I observed these animal tracks to go through the blood eastward and then proceed south along Bundy from the location. Additionally, I observed what appeared to be shoe prints, bloody shoe prints, leading from the area of the 2 victims up these steps and in a westerly direction along the walkway that is along the north side of the residence. They appeared to go directly by the open front door of the residence and continue in a westerly direction. As they progressed, they began to fade towards the rear of the house. The actual bloody shoe prints did. There appeared to be several blood droplets among these bloody shoe prints leading away westerly from the bodies. These droplets appeared to have landed straight down on the pavement.
Let me ask you a question, sir. You indicated that you saw bloody shoe prints in an area, in a direction that appeared to go away from the bodies toward the rear of the building?
Yes.
Did you notice any blood drops in that vicinity?
Yes, again, I did notice several blood drops.
What side of the bloody shoe prints?
I believe they were just on the left side or be on the south side for the most part.
To the south, which would be to the left of the bloody shoe prints?
Yes.
And if you would, sir, can you describe the nature of the building and the scene as you saw it? In other words, where is the path in relation to stairs and the landing and the building behind which, in front of which you found Miss Simpson?
Well, the building itself is a large condominium. It appears to be a duplex, 3-level.
If you step up the path, sir, is there a gate that you come to before you should come to the body of the victim?
Yes, there's a gate to the east of where the victims were located that I found to be wide open at the time. The gate is serviceable and could be locked from the inside and opened from the inside without a key. However, from the outside, one would need a key. Additionally, there's an outside latch that would have to be activated in order to get in after one would key their way in, or someone on the inside would allow them to go in.
You observed the operation of that gate, I take it, personally.
Yes.
Is there a way from the inside of the house, you can press a button to open the gate electronically?
There is an inside release button, but I could not activate it. To me, it was unserviceable at that time.
And at that time was what time?
Well, the morning of the crime scene investigation and during subsequent visits to the crime scene.
So as of June 13th, the morning of June 13th, you found the release button on the inside of the residence to be inoperable. That is, it would not open the gate.
Yes.
And based on your observation, you were able to manually unlatch the gate? If you went down to it and unlatched it?
From the inside?
Yes.
Yes.
But you would have to do that in order to open it?
Well, you'd have to, the inner knob is a smooth knob. The outer knob towards the street is keyed. So from the inside, you could open it by the knob, but one would have to, if they were opening it from the inside, reach over the gate and undo the latch that's on the outside of the gate.
As well?
Yes.
Just, Pat, you indicated, I think, that you found Ms. Simpson up against or next to the stairs that were leading up to the landing that leads to the front door?
She was lying more or less on her left side in what I would term a semi-fetal position, with the head in a north by northeasterly direction.
After you go up those stairs, if you were going to go to the back alley, can you describe the path that you would take?
To the back alley from that location?
Yes.
Yes, there are 3 or 4 steps leading above where she was located to a porch area, and then there are, I believe, 2 more steps up another area towards the front door, which would be off to one's left if you're walking in a westerly direction. That pathway continues westerly to the point where there is a small latched gate. One would go through the latched gate and then descend several steps to a lower area where the housekeeper's quarters would probably be located, and proceed along that area to a point where there are some more steps going up, another level area, and one would eventually reach a locking gate similar to the front gate located at the northwest corner of the property. This particular gate had a deadbolt lock, again, accessible from the inside and not the outside.
So from the pathway that is perpendicular to the sidewalk, you'd go up some stairs, across a landing, down some stairs, and out through a rear gate to a driveway area that is in front of the garage that feeds to an alley?
Yes, the residence driveway is to the rear there.
And the alley runs north-south?
Yes.
Did you also look at the inside of the house at 875 South Bundy?
Yes.
When you saw that house, sir, can you describe the position of the front door?
When I observed it, the front door was wide open.
Is that the way, if you know, in which it was found by the first officer?
That was my information, yes.
Showing you now photograph that appears to be will have the number 104 in it. And ask that this be marked Peoples
10.
10. Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell us what that is, sir?
Yes, this is the white envelope that I'd mentioned previously, located between both victims on the ground with the prescription, what appeared to be prescription glasses in it.
Did you see any writing on that envelope, sir?
Eventually, when it was turned over, I did see some writing on the face side, something to the effect of Nicole Simpson prescription glasses.
You see a pattern I'm pointing out now just below that white envelope that appears to be a pattern in blood.
Yes,
Did you observe that when you were at the scene that morning
yes,
on June the 13th?
yes.
What was that, sir? Or what did it appear to you to be?
It appeared to me to be a bloody shoe print of some type.
You indicated, I think earlier in your testimony, that you saw a few bloody shoe prints leading away from the bodies of the victims.
Yes,
Did they appear to be the same kind of tread as the one shown in People's tent?
they appeared to be consistent, yes.
Would the court like to see the photograph? Showing you now a photograph with the number 103 in it. I said it be marked People's 11.
All right.
Can you tell us what is depicted in that photograph, sir?
This is also, there are three various things in here that I'd like to point out. There's another bloody, what appears to be a bloody footprint, a dark blue knit ski-type cap that I described earlier, and the aforementioned dark brown leather glove that was located near the feet of Mr. Goldman.
Do you see also what appears to be that a bloody print in
Yes.
this photograph as well?
Yeah.
What was that, sir?
Again, it's a bloody footprint that was consistent with the others that I'd seen.
Shoe print, you mean?
Shoe print, that's correct.
And a photograph with the number 10.
Out, sir.
Another photograph with the number 102 in it, People's 12. Can you tell us what is depicted there, sir?
This is a close-up shot of the dark brown leather glove that I mentioned. Again, and there's appears to be a shoe print of a bloody shoe.
And a photograph with the toe of a shoe in it, depicting a brown glove and what appears to be blue knit cap, People's 13? Showing you People's 13, sir. Can you tell me what's shown in that photograph?
This is another photograph of the dark brown leather glove. It shows a portion of the left foot of Mr. Goldman, the victim. It also shows the dark blue ski cap that I mentioned earlier. And again, we have a bloody shoe print depicted.
Now, are those the same items depicted in the previous photographs that have numbers on them, sir?
Yes, they're just from a different angle.
And showing you a photograph that appears to have the numbers 102, 103, and 104 in it, People's.
I think really
14.
the last one should have been, okay, the last one was 13.
13?
So this is 14?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Showing you People's 14, sir. Tell us what that depicts.
This is more or less an overall shot of the direct crime scene after the victims had been removed, indicating the aforementioned white envelope with the glasses, the dark brown leather glove, the blue ski cap, and the shoe prints.
Since that's a perspective shot of all of the items in one picture that you've shown,
Yes.
you've talked about.
Yes.
And now a picture with the number 107 in it, People's 15. Can you tell us, sir, if you notice any what appear to be blood patterns reflecting a shoe print that you've previously described in that photograph?
This is a photograph at the stoop of the stairs where Nicole Simpson was located, looking in a westerly direction. There appears to be an outline of a shoe print on the first step leading up in a westerly direction in a large pool of blood.
Now, the sheet that is shown in that photograph, sir, with the number 107 on it, is that where you found Ms. Brown?
Yes.
And People's 16. Please tell us what's depicted in this photograph, sir.
16 is the right foot, beneath the right foot of Mr. Goldman, the victim, depicting the sole and heel of his right shoe.
And why was that, why did you want that photograph taken, sir?
It was important to us to determine whether or not the victims had any blood on the soles or heels of their shoes.
Were you also interested in seeing the pattern of the soles of the shoes?
Yes, that also.
Was Miss Brown wearing any shoes?
No, she was barefoot.
Can you describe for us, sir, what Ms. Brown was wearing at the time that you saw her?
She was wearing a, what I describe as a black shift or cocktail dress, sleeveless. It had one strap through around the neck.
Halter dress?
Halter dress, yes.
And can you describe for us what Ron Goldman was wearing when you saw him?
He was wearing some type of Levi's. He was wearing athletic type, what I describe as perhaps athletic type boots that were secured high on his ankle. He had on a light colored plaid long sleeve shirt.
When you first arrived at the scene, sir, had anyone yet been able to identify Ron Goldman?
No, he had not been identified.
If you know, at some point, was he identified at some point during that morning?
Yes.
And how did that come about?
Once the coroner's representative had arrived, a search was made of his pockets and his driver's license was recovered.
I'd like to photograph of what appears to be a driver's license, People's 17.
Yes.
Showing you People's 17, sir. Tell us if you recognize what I'm showing you.
Yes, that's a photograph of Mr. Goldman's driver's license, as well as a photograph of a Union Bank card.
Is that the driver's license that you saw that was retrieved from the pocket of Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
If you would, sir, can you describe the lighting as you found it when you arrived at the scene of 875 South Bundy?
When I arrived, initially, there was a porch light on over the front door, a ceiling type light. There was a small light located to the south of the stationary gate near where Miss Simpson was located. The lamp that shone directly straight up. There was a very dim Malibu light located east of the location. And as far as overhead street lights, there was one to the east of the location on the street. However, the illumination appeared to have no bearing on the scene itself. There's an additional hanging lamp on the northeast corner of Dorothy and Bundy that gave some indirect lighting on the scene. Additionally, there was a light on the building itself, on the residence, in the southeast corner of the residence outside that really had no direct bearing on the immediate scene.
Overall, sir, would you say that the lighting in the area where the victims were was very well lit, dark? Can you describe?
I wouldn't call it well lit. There was some light, but there's also a great deal of foliage and shrubbery around the area that would block out not only the overhead lighting, but some lighting from the residence itself.
Did you notice whether there was any kind of light on the gate itself?
On the gate?
Yes, the gate in front of the residence.
Not on the gate.
What, if any, lighting was there working on the night that you were there that you observed in the front of the house?
Again, initially what I observed was a small light that was planted in the ground near the mailbox just south of the victims.
Was that on?
It was on initially, yes.
And what about the porch light?
Porch light was on.
But how much light did that give?
Not a great deal of light. It did light the area, but it was not what I'd call a great deal of light.
Here, I have here a photograph I'm going to ask it to be marked People's 17?
18.
18? Thank you. Showing you People's 18, sir. Can you please tell us what's depicted in that photograph?
This is a photograph looking in a northwesterly direction of the victim, Mr. Goldman.
And that depicts the body of the victim, Mr. Goldman, as you found him, sir.
Yes.
In that photograph, can you see the envelope you earlier described that bore the writing, Nicole Simpson, prescription glasses?
Yes.
You described for us earlier, sir, a blood trail that went from the area where the victims were found to the outer area, all the way out to the alley behind the house.
Yes, in that general area.
I have a series of photographs, Your Honor. A through G, ask that they be marked People's 19.
All right.
And another 3 photographs collectively ask that they be marked as People's 20.
All right.
First of all, sir, I'm showing you People's 19. If you would, please describe what's shown in each photograph, and as best you can, describe the location in which we see each of the markers.
In photograph A, this is looking in a westerly direction. This is the walkway described earlier. The victims would have been found below this photograph. This is the first landing area. These 3 steps lead up to the front entrance, which is just off to the left here. The numbers depicted were placed there by the criminalists indicate blood droplets that were located. Item photograph B is a close-up of number 112, a blood droplet. Photograph C, item 113, is depicted overall, and photograph A is another close-up of a apparent blood droplet. Photograph D indicates a stairwell on the walkway, overall depicted in photograph A, leading in a westerly direction downwards. Here we have item 114, which is an overall of a blood droplet. A close-up of 114 is indicated in photograph E. Photograph D, we have the various letters. These are corresponding to bloody shoe prints that I had alluded to earlier.
Letters, sir? Are you talking about other markings that are on that photograph?
Yes.
A-G, A-H, A-I,
Yes.
A-J-K, etc.,
These were placed by the criminalist.
to mark the bloody shoe prints?
Yes. Photograph F, again, is looking westerly. That is the rear gate of the property located in the, there's the gate located in the northwest corner of the property. These are the stairs going up. Here you see a overall shot of item 115. Photograph G is a close-up of that, which appears to be a blood droplet.
That photograph F, sir, does that show the rear gate that opens out to the garage and alley area?
Yes.
Now showing you people's 20. Can you tell us what's depicted in those photographs A, B, and C, and describe the location that's shown in those photographs?
Photograph A is a close-up of the rear gate with what appears to be blood droplets. Item B, photograph B, again, is an overall depiction of what appears to be a blood droplet, and the close-up of that is indicated in photograph C.
So that is the outer area that actually is the driveway of the garage and alley?
Yes, this is the just off to the left here would be the vehicle, a Cherokee vehicle belonging to Ms. Simpson.
You're indicating photograph B there, sir?
Photograph B. This is looking in a northwesterly direction. The alley would be, the north-south alley would be depicted at the top here, from left to right.
And in photograph, you indicated photograph A is that gate.
Yes.
When you were at the crime scene that morning on June the 13th, did you notice the position of that gate that's shown in photograph A?
The gate was in the open position.
To your knowledge, was it open at the time the first officer arrived?
My recollection is that it was ajar, somewhat open. It wasn't secured.
It wasn't locked?